All right. Well, good afternoon, Rachel. Um, what would be helpful for us to talk about today?
Um, so this week's interesting. I feel like the other weeks I felt a little bit more prepared of what I wanted to talk about. Um, I did end up not going to my mom's house for Thanksgiving, kind of like what we were mentioned. Um, and that brought a lot of emotions that were difficult to process because there's a lot of emotions all at once. And thoughts related to that. So it just kind of feels like almost like I've been purging, old patterns and thoughts and um, almost like an attachment to, I guess maintaining contact almost felt like I had some sense of almost always wanting to at least attempt control in the relationship of like attempting a desired result. And so detaching from that and not going felt like I was actually releasing control and allowing it to be. So felt a little complex. Um, I don't really know what I want to do with all that. I think there's been a lot. I think it's spurred some, I guess, some creative thought process. And so I feel like I've been able to dream more and be able to be a little bit more free flowing with like wanting to go for things that I want to go for. But there's just so much at once that I think it just becomes hard to focus.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you shared a lot there. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Um, I want to go back to you mentioned a mix of emotions that you've been experiencing. Tell me more about the emotions that came up for you.
Um, at first, there was a lot of anger before I had decided not to go. Um, I think there's a lot of nervousness of still of like of trying not to think of like how other people might perceive me for doing this. So there is a little bit of fear and concern of what other people think, even though I know I shouldn't be doing that. Um, so feels almost like shaky energy because of that. Um,
Explain
and
that. Can you explain that, the shaky energy? What's that feel like in your body?
um, it's it feels like it's mostly I think in my hands that I can feel it, but I think there's a little bit of concern of what someone could do to me. So I feel like it's almost a fear of like almost like a emotional or verbal abuse that could occur. Um, because I guess that's been part of my history in the past. Um,
So you feel afraid and that you need to protect yourself.
yes, yes. Um,
That sounds really hard.
yeah, but there's always a part of me that says, well, you can make it, or you should be able to push through. Um, so I don't think it's something I can't conquer, but it's still difficult to be in, I guess, not the best emotions. Um, and then when I had gone to So I didn't go to my mom's, but I did go to my brother's house, one of my brother's houses, um, with my sister-in-law, and all her family was there for Thanksgiving night. And I guess I was still all caught up in my emotions. And so my brother mentioned that I looked shaky in my hands. He's like, "What are you trying to do? Are you trying to be like Grandma Lois?" And so my grandma has like shakiness, but I know it's like something different. It's hers is more of a physical thing. I mean, there's a possibility it could be connected, but I don't know. But I can tell mine is more connected towards emotions. Um,
So you were shaking enough to have somebody visibly that somebody in your family commented on it.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a little bit of mixture of both good and bad. Before, I think that I would hide it really well, so nobody knew whether I was experiencing something bad at all. And I know that some of me having like, I guess, emotional triggers in my body, it was easier to have emotional trigger in my body than it was to actually feel the emotion before. So that is something I'm going through with processing. Um, and trying to release. So,
Yeah. Wow. Well, it sounds like on the one hand that are you're wanting to be you believe you're strong enough to I should be able to handle all this. But then on the other hand, you're wanting to self-protect and keep yourself safe from any possible harm from the encounters that you might experience. Does that sound correct?
yes, it does. So, but I mean, the
Yeah.
goal is freedom at the end of the day. So, you know, you want to keep yourself protected to keep yourself alive, but, you still want to not live in that, or I want to not live in that mindset, of being fearful and scared of what could possibly happen or go wrong. And think of good things for the future, instead of being trapped in a fear mindset, like holds me back. So,
Right. I wonder if we looked you're seeing the fear as a you're seeing your holding back as a fear response. And I wonder if we could look at it as um in a more positive frame of I'm being self-protective.
yeah, that could be a better response. So I think I would probably use self-protective when it comes down to other people, but maybe not myself. So
Oh,
might be unconsciously trying to be meaner to me than I should be. So
yeah, we're always hardest on ourselves than and have yeah. I get that. I get that. So
could you repeat back what you were saying so that I can process about what the maybe a
sure.
better perspective was?
Sure. Well, you were talking about how you didn't want to have, you wanted freedom and to be basically freedom from the fear. You didn't want to have this fear response. And you were thinking of yourself as I'm in fear and so I have to protect myself. But I was just, and that's valid. We experience fears and we do want to protect ourselves. But I was just thinking of seeing self-protection as a grace and a benefit of like an example of taking care of yourself. So
Hmm.
instead of looking at it as I'm afraid, I was looking at it as I'm worth protecting. I'm worth keeping myself safe from other people.
Mm-hmm.
It may initially feel like a fear response, but I was just thinking we could look at it maybe as I'm I'm taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because that was the goal of the reason why I did the things I did in the first place, was wanting to be a little bit more protective of myself and actually feel like I'm being me versus, feeling like I'm just doing things for other people without my own sense of identity. So,
Yeah, you feel like you want to be true to yourself.
yes. So,
Right. So, is there anything else that you want to share about that experience?
um, I don't know if there's um too much more we can talk about that. I mean, the guess the goal is to still be living with my own identity and my own goals and pursuing them. Um, so that's my focus. And with, the perspective you were saying about it being a form of self-protection for myself, I guess that's going more in the direction that I'm wanting to go in, which is good because I was second guessing myself of whether or not, even when I know I'm doing the right thing I'm supposed to, sometimes there's that little voice that says, like, are you sure? Um, so um,
Fear and doubt tries to creep in there, doesn't it?
yeah, there's that little bit of doubt or um, I think the a conflict between, wanting to help people, but also realizing if I'm, trying to get out of enabling people. So
Yeah, it can be hard to discern the difference there. So you mentioned something about you wanted the focus. Uh, you mentioned goals
mhm.
and changing the focus. Um, let's explore more about that. What goals do you have for our session here, working together?
Um, so I guess the goal is that I'm trying to get into out of my inhibiting, I guess, mindsets that I feel like have held me back from I guess being as successful financially or actually feeling like I'm being completely true to myself. And so I'm trying to not be stuck in any of those mindsets. And so so the goal is to try to learn to be more myself, I guess. And to get um into a career that I feel like I can be successful in. Um or feel like I should have been doing for a while versus, following what other people said I should do. So
Oh, tell me more about that. So
about
you've been following a path that doesn't feel like your own? Is that what you're saying?
I feel like when I first became an adult, then I just thought that maybe adults would have had it a little bit more figured out. And so there was a little bit of wanting to be told how exactly I should go about the process. Um, but then you realize that people don't have their life figured out either. So a lot of their advice can be more subjective towards their own life, or they've already given up on their dreams and goals. And so it's not very helpful. So I guess having enough, I don't think the right word is confidence in yourself. It might be confidence in yourself to like actually go for what I feel like I should be going for, um, versus needing someone to tell me exactly how to go about it. So I'm at this point of time now where I realize that I have to that I've gone back in my thought process and I've thought about the amount of times that I knew, you know, what I was thinking was correct, or like that the intuition was kicking in, um and the path I was supposed to be going on. And no matter what anybody else said, I knew I was supposed to do that. But before, I felt like I was still hoping for someone to give me the right answer. But everybody's path looks different. So you can't just say one correct answer works for you. And even though I tell people that for their own life all the time, then for some reason, taking that on my own life is not working. Um, so
Right, right. Wow. Well, it sounds like you have a lot of good insights about how do I express this? Um, you have good insights regarding what following your intuition and being true to yourself versus following what you think what other people have told you you should do. And and the insight was that you're recognizing that, oh, not every that they don't have the answer. So I it it's enjoyable to see your thought process and your journey of how you're coming to see that, oh, God's got a plan for me, and you can do things your way, and the way you were created to be true to yourself.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or I've been thinking about how we I've sometimes I can't remember who said it first. Someone's mentioned something about it. Why would you be so fixed on someone's opinion of or advice on something that doesn't even have it figured out themselves? And so real life, I've done a lot of that. So I was like, well, I know they're not in the same path I want to go in. I know they don't even have enough courage to even go for this. And yet I'm still asking them for advice for something I know that they would never want to attempt. So it's not gonna, yeah. So
Well, it seems natural to seek after validation and confirmation that, well, we're going in the right direction. Um, so I think I think you were wise in looking, but and I see that you are recognizing um how close to your chest you should hold their opinions. Like, good to ask for opinion, but then hold it with loose hands and not have to grasp onto it so tightly.
yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, I understand. And even when I've tried not to grasp onto it, but I realize it was almost a pattern because my mom would get really offended if I didn't do exactly what she said. So like even when I didn't want to, there was still this holding on to it because I had to figure out how to mingle through. Um, Not exactly saying that I didn't want to do what she wanted to say, wanted me to. So yeah, it's even when I don't want to hold on to it, there's still portions that I feel like you're still, yeah, hyper awareness of having to hold on to something that you don't need to be holding on to. Needs a little bit more of a release.
Yeah. So is that what you think was, you were mentioning earlier, we were talking about the feelings in the body. And you said something about uh it feeling like a release. Is
Yeah,
that correct or not?
I think that there's still thought about a lot of past circumstances where I have to like mentally tell myself, hey, that was in the past, instead of it feeling like I got out of danger of that one street, and I'm still scared about that one street. And so I feel like there's been a little bit of leftover being scared of those same circumstances, even though I know that it's not going to repeat itself. Um, I don't know why it's still there. So
you brought it to the streets kind of thing, but are you really more talking about the relationship dynamic with your mom?
I'm talking about the
The
relationship dynamic with my mom, and I'm talking about I've had just, I guess, bad narcissistic kind of um, connections. I had a professor that was very narcissistic in my dance department. I had I had a boss manager that was very narcissistic. Um, so both of those put me very on edge for my feeling like I had to figure out how to survive. So put my hyper awareness at like max level and still feeling like it wasn't high enough. So yeah, I think that
oh,
there was,
I'm
so I'm
sorry that you
still, yeah. So
go on.
um so the yeah, the professor, I know that there was a lot of other people that had the similar experience that I had with that same professor, and he was fired from it at the end of the day. But it still took a long time to like feel a little bit more normal. Um, I normally expected most trials in my life to last, okay, I got a year and I am good. And that one was like 3 years. So just keep having to push away, um, go sort through all the things that had happened. So, and then, but I think I realized when I had that encounter with the professor that the reason why I was so susceptible to that was because of the way my relationship with my mom was. But I can't, but I don't know.
Oh,
Mention that to my mom, that's not going to be taken in a good way at all. So, but yeah, a lot of the whole, um, it's a lot of testing to see if I was really a good person or if I would do something bad or just trying to trigger me to really bad levels, see how I'd react or if I would give up on, a goal or a dream or, um, so a little bit of that, like, oh, you look really nice when you laugh or you smile, but then at the same time trying to antagonize me to get to the opposite level of like not being positive and almost on the same, more on the same level that, the person is versus, um, and the boss was kind of similar in that with telling me that I was like, starts off all well, where you're just like, oh, I can see that you go so far, and then they keep piling on more things and more things and more things and more things, and you're just like, I physically and emotionally cannot handle this. um, so yeah,
I'm so
just
sorry to go through that.
yeah,
That's really hard and sort of overwhelming. So, but I see that you've come through that, which is a credit to you. That's amazing. So our time is coming to an end today. And so to summarize, we talked about your feelings of wanting to be true to yourself and not have the fear of what other people think, or even the fear of not pleasing them in the sense of following the directions that they're trying to tell you to go when you want to follow your intuition and where you know you're supposed to go. Does that sound right?
yes.
Yeah. So, and then, so a goal that you would like to work on for the future, is to continue to strengthen that confidence in your own decision making, following your intuition. Is that
Yes.
something we'd like to keep working on? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll pick up from here next week. It was very nice meeting with you today, Rachel.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you.
Yay! It's over.
That actually fell shorter
That's
than I
so
thought.
hard. Good job.
I may have been less
Thank-
anxious as a
thank
client this time.
Yeah, you shared a lot. You did a good job. It's hard to share all that stuff. You did a good job being vulnerable.
I was like, what?
So,
I felt less anxious this time. That's amazing. Um, so
yay, yay.
when it,
Let's see. Were there, okay, we'll start with strengths. Was there any part where you felt like you were that I understood what you were saying or feeling, um or anything I said that was helpful?
well, I asked you to repeat something twice, so you know that was helpful.
Oh, you froze a little.
Huh? Oh, okay. You're there again.
Okay,
It
well,
didn't
that's good.
freeze during the video, so that's good. Um, but yeah, I asked you to repeat
It
it
was
twice
good.
because that made more sense of realizing that I was being mean towards myself. So that was a helpful
Good.
realignment. Um, and then that
Well,
was
yeah, I can say I
kind of
did
like
a reframe.
you- yes, a
What?
reframe. Yes, a reframe. Yes. um, it just happened. Okay, so we have the emotions of it. I think you connected well with emotions. It was we had encouragers that were just kept going. Um, because I already kind of felt like I knew where I was. I started feeling like I was getting in the flow. So I, there wasn't too many awkward pauses where I was like, I don't know what I'm saying. So that was good. But so like you have the good encouragers. Like I think that if I had made you realize the pause wasn't too long. So you just let me continue. And that's what you need to do. So that's a good thing. Um,
Anything that stood out as completely inaccurate or awkward or broken connection or anything that you can think of? I don't.
don't really think there was too much. Um,
I know I can be slow when I'm processing. So like when I'm trying to reflect back, I'm like trying to put the words together.
I mean, it could
Um,
be in the future, you could probably shorten. Like there was
I don't
one,
know how.
but I mean, it was good because you didn't make it awkward. So you said it, but it wasn't confusing. Like it's like when someone
Okay,
could
I
write a
could
whole
just be.
paragraph versus two or three. It's when someone has a longer paragraph versus two or three sentences, but I still understood the paragraph. So you're still
Thank you.
understandable.
Okay.
Um,
All right. Good now? Did we say enough?
we say everything that we were supposed to touch upon.
Nonverbal communication.
Um,
And did you said you felt that a connection and that I was present. I know you said that at the beginning. Because I think that was one of the question, how present is the counselor? Um,
yes. So you were present. Um, yep, and allowed it to go and allowed it to flow. So, um, You provided, oh, you said a few of, you did say strengths. You highlighted strengths, you highlighted goals, you highlighted, there was something else. I feel like there was something else. Help me remember what it was.
I
There
do
was definitely,
remember I did have you try to sit in a feeling or experience the feeling. I tried to get you to express like your shakiness or something. You were talking about that.
explaining that what that was for my bodies, which helped me be able to explain further what was actually going on instead of just holding back. So, um, which is good. So, not so
So
much.
yay.
Yeah, so there wasn't
And
yeah, there was a lot more of a release of being able to talk versus having feeling like I was holding things back and questioning whether I should say things. So, anything else that I need to say?
oh, I think we hit everything. Yay. We could stop recording.
We'll stop recording.